Awesome, we are live. Getting ready to do some shortcuts a lot. Hey Bonnie. Gonna give it a few minutes. I'm a few minutes early, let some people come in. Hey Linda. Hopefully we have sound. Just want to double check. Yay, thank you, Linda. Awesome. Okay. Hopefully all of you guys know that if you click on the link down below or the show more in the description, there are links to Shortcuts a Lot along with the group links and things like that. Hi Anita. So if you don't have Shortcuts a Lot or you're thinking about getting Shortcuts a Lot, the link is down below. I will earn a small commission, and I appreciate you guys that do that and help support the channel and the groups. You guys are awesome. Well, I'll also say thank you to all of my Ko-fi and my Patreon supporters and my YouTube memberships. Greatly appreciate you, as well as my moderators. There's Louise. You guys are awesome. Yay, Bonnie, you have sound? Good. Bonnie got her little cricket guy. She is now a maker and a shaker. Welcome aboard, Bonnie. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, I just finished doing all of the laptop and computer users 2021 Design Space videos. So those are ready. They're in a playlist. You guys can find those on the channel as well. I will be doing some mobile series as well. Those will be coming up next week. For that reason, I am not going to do Shortcuts a Lot live on the 15th January, something like that. Anyway, let's play the intro and then I'll pull up the calendar and show you guys. So there is our calendar. I was going to go live on Wednesday here, but with the inauguration going and all of that stuff, I just decided I have been, oops, there goes my minions again. I have to fix that. I haven't taken time. I've done 16 videos I started on Tuesday or Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't remember. Anyway, I have done 16 videos since then. And then tonight's video as well, and the supporter file video. And so I'm a little bit tired, and I am going to do tonight's live, and then we're going to do Monday's live, and I am going to skip Shortcuts a Lot on inauguration night. I just don't know what the internet's going to do, and with it being busy and all of that stuff going on, I don't want to have a lot of lag and problems, so we're just going to skip that one. but I may go live on Friday. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel after doing all those mobile videos this coming week. So, all right, and want to go overhead. If you are a supporter, you got this file on Wednesday, and this is the slide and lock card. It just slides off the top, and then you have your card inside. We did some inking. I didn't show it on the video, but I did ink a little bit on the back, just very lightly, just to give it some interest. How pretty is that? But I did find, and I didn't put this on the video, so if you are watching, you are going to get a little tip that I figured out. When you're trying to slide this on and it's new and it's fresh, it hasn't been broken in yet, it can jam up a little bit. But I decided if you place one side on and get it where you want it, and then pull this back, you can load it in here. Well, I did it super easy 2 or 3 times. And just push it in. And it loads a lot easier. And that gives it a little bit of play working with it so that it begins to slide a little bit better. Okay? Super, super, super fun. You can slide it either way. But that is the slide and lock base that everybody seems to be doing now. Super, super fun. So let's learn a little bit about Sure Cuts a Lot and how we can design in there and what are our likenesses, Design Space versus Sure Cuts a Lot. How many of you have, if you have yours up and you want to play along, that's great, that's fantastic, I encourage it. It's going to help you later in the long run. So what I wanted to do is kind of show you the ins and outs before we get deep into designing and what each tool does in the next few weeks. I wanted to just kind of cover some of the likenesses of Design Space so that you would know, because they're all in here from Design Space as well. They're just named different things. So up here at the top you have New, which is going to create a new project. And in Design Space we click it, and if we've got a project on the mat, it asks us if we want to replace it, if we haven't saved it, things like that. Here it's just going to ask you if you want to name it, what size you want, mat you want. You can skip all of that if you're a Design Space cutter. You don't need to fill in any of that. But if you want to go from millimeters to inches, all that, you can select that here. Next we have, I'm just going to cancel that. Next we have Open. Open will open up any existing projects that you have. And if you have some on your desktop like I do, where are we? There we are. Then you can go in and you can open up those cards. I'll even open this, give you guys a sneak peek of what may be coming on the next week, on Monday maybe. So you can open up your projects there. Basically the same thing as Design Space. Instead of My Projects, it says Open. How simple and easy is that? You guys know a lot more about Sure Cuts a Lot than you think you do. There is a, Bonnie, there is a mobile app for Sure Cuts a Lot. That being said, don't rush out and get it. It is only $9.99 unless they've changed the price of it. However, I have found that it's really hard to use on a tablet, and it's not as bad as it used to be. It would crash when you tried to use your fonts, if you had too many fonts. So I don't know if they've improved that. But Sure Cuts a Lot is so detailed and you can do so much with it. It is better as a downloaded desktop application. You can use it on your laptop. So, you know, laptop or computer, you can use it. You don't need but one copy to do that. So I mean, you can get it and you can try it. I don't know. I know that with Apple, I could get the Shortcuts a Lot app and try it. And if it wasn't working for whatever reason, I can go back and say, hey, this doesn't work. I want my money back. And they'll do that. You have X amount of time, I think, to do that. But, you know, try it. It can't hurt, you know. So once you've done that, you've got Save, which is the same all the way across the board on any platforms. It is just what it says. It's Save. Now, I've already saved this project, so it's not going to pop up and do anything. You also have all of those commands right here. You have your new project, your open project, close your project, close all projects if you have several open, save your project, and a save as. Now, because I've already done that one, it's not going to let me do anything. So let me just do a new project. And I'm going to go to the library. And I'm just going to insert a heart. And so if I wanted to save that, all I have to do is hit Save. Now, here are my options. I can save this as a Shortcuts a Lot file, and Shortcuts a Lot will open it. It's not going to open anywhere else. Just like Design Space, when you open a Design Space link, it's not going to open anywhere but Design Space. Same thing. You can name it and tag it and then save. So I'm just going to save mine, and that's as simple as it is. If you want to redo it, you can do a save as if you make changes and don't want those changes in there. So super easy and simple. Then you have your cut, copy, and paste. Your undo and your redo. Those are the same things that you have in Design Space. They're at the top of your bar here. They're also in this File menu, I think. No, those are in the Edit menu. So you have them on your Edit bar in Design Space, and they're in your Edit bar, in your Edit drop down here in Shortcuts a Lot. So you can see where all of these tools are coming in, and you have these same tools over in Design Space. You just have a few more of them, and they're located in several places throughout Shortcuts a Lot. So we have them up here on the top main menu, the header menu. Then you have them here in this panel, and then you have your right click and you have them. So super easy to figure out how to do those. Next, you have your import button. What is that in Design Space? How many of you have used your upload button in Design Space? It's the same thing. So your import is going to be the same thing, basically, as your upload button in Design Space. So let me go back to my desktop. I got a file from Design Bundles, and I want to use it. Say I want to use this bear. I can click it and open it, and there he is. So it's just a little bit easier to import your image here than it is in Design Space. We don't have to do all that naming, tagging, all that unless you save your file. Is everybody with me so far? So super easy and super simple. You just have to learn that it may have a secondary name instead of being called upload. This is called import. They do the same things. Of course, you get a little bit more that you can do with these because you've got more files that you can import. So now next we have Trace. We're going to come back to Trace at a later date, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys just a little bit about what Trace does. If you have an image, let me go and find something here. Let's see. I want it to be kind of simple, not too many layers, but there we go. Perfect. I'm going to try to bring this over here. There we go. So I go online and I see this picture of Winnie the Pooh. Now I'm just going to throw this out here, guys. Copyrights and trademarks are still copyrights and trademarks. Now when it comes to your own personal use, that's totally up to you what you do. But if you're making SVGs or projects, or you're selling shirts or you're selling cups, things of that nature, it's still copyrighted. It's still trademarked, just so you know. But let's say that I need this picture for a t-shirt that I'm making for my niece. So I'm going to go and I'm going to download that image. And just like any other download, it's going to go into your downloads, and I am going to drag it over into Shortcuts a Lot. I'm going to come back to it because you see that it didn't come into the trace. Here it is in, oops, let me cancel that. Here it is in Shortcuts a Lot, and it comes in just like a PNG does to Design Space. It's super huge, super big. It's basically a print and cut, and that's about all I can do with it. I'm going to go over here to my pop-out window really quick and size that down. So there it is. So I have it, but there's not a whole lot I can do with it, just like Design Space. It is a print and cut. Okay? Hey, Sue. Just what it is. So that's not really what I'm wanting. That's not what it's not working for me. I really want it to be an SVG. So I'm just going to get rid of this bear so it's not distracting. So I'm going to click on Trace, and then I'm going to choose an image, and I'm going to go to my downloads, and I am going to grab that Winnie the Pooh, and I'm going to open him. Okay? Here is where, and I have not finished my classes yet, guys, so I can't tell you what everything in here is. I can just tell you what I do for now. There is more details and more things to learn in here than I have gotten to. These are just the basics, okay? In Design Space, when we upload that PNG, we can go in there and we can clean up this background and get rid of it. But I can't do that here. But I can layer it out and turn it into an SVG. I've chosen my image, and I can choose if I want a single layer, which is the same as a PNG and a print and cut for Design Space, or if I want it to be in black and white or monochrome tones. And then I have my color layers. Here I can choose up to 256 layers. I'm just going to say, if you are one of those people who design SVGs, those do not upload well into Design Space. You don't lose any detail when you trace an image and you do that, but it bogs down Design Space if it loads it all and freezes it. You don't want to do that. I generally try to stay within 5 layers, no more than 7. So if you can get by with that, that's where you want to be. The least amount you can do is 2. You cannot go below 2 because that's going to be the same thing as just this white background. If I go down to 1, it's not going to let me do that. That's just a square, okay, at that point. So here we have that. And I'm not really sure what the high pass filter does. I think it just sharpens it. I don't want to do that. It just took all my colors away. I haven't learned that. I've seen it and I've heard it explained once, maybe twice, but I never looked into it. So that is something that we will learn later. And then you have your output settings. I kind of leave mine this smooth, and what it's going to do is kind of smooth any pixelated areas. So if you have a really pixelated image, it's going to kind of help smooth that out. And then how much detail you want in it. I just leave mine at 98 just so I don't have a ton of nodes, which we will talk about later. And then we have our single line threshold. I'm not sure what that does yet. I really haven't seen that. I probably have, I just don't remember it. So I'm just going to leave it there. Break apart lines is just going to break everything apart and bring it in as lines. Okay, and don't really need those for this image right now. And then you have your blackout, and then you can add a print and cut image layer, which we will talk about later. That's the same thing as just importing a PNG. You know, guys, if you have questions, please put them in caps. Stop and ask me. I'm happy to help you. Okay? If I can. If I can. So, I can update my preview and take a look and see what all the settings have done to my image. And you can see it there. It looks kind of funky, but it's going to be okay. I can show, and right here is going to tell me how many nodes that I have up here. And my image source, I'm just bringing that in just so it looks good. Don't have to worry about that. If I want to show the node, you can see that's where it's going to cut. That's just the way it's going to cut all the way around. Okay? Because all the pieces are still stacked on top of each other. And that's okay. That white layer that came in with the other, hey Marianne, did not come in here. So I'm just going to look at it and I am going to say, okay, I'm pretty good with that. So there he is, and he's huge, okay? And you can see how rough all of that is right there, because that was a really, really, really rough image. I'm just going to say, it's rough. We're going to bring this down and make it fit on the mat. It doesn't look as bad there, but you can see when we highlight it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to break it apart. Boom. Everything went away. That's okay. I'm going to come in here and I want to look at this layer. And you can see all of those pieces. That's what it's going to do. Oops, I got to ungroup it. Oh, it is ungrouped. This is a really weird image. It's not doing all the things I want it to do. Break it apart. There we go. So here I have his belly. And then I don't want all these pieces. I just want this outside piece. There we go. So there's my main image. Okay. And that's the way that it does when you trace. It breaks it apart into pieces. And that's where you saw all that jagged at. So that's really, see how jagged that piece is right there? See if I can zoom in. You have a zoom down here at the bottom. It looks pretty smooth there, but that's zoomed up to 300%. Okay? Totally pixelated image. So that's what happens when you trace and you try to do images that don't really, well, what am I trying to say? Images that aren't really suitable. Now, there are ways to fix that and make it suitable, and you can do that. We're going to learn that later when we get into paths, but you can see how you can pull an image in and trace it. You can bring it in, you can break it apart. This is probably the images that I would use because these look smoother. They don't look as rough. See how rough that is? I would probably use this back layer back here and then use the lines and change the color of all of those. But that's just for that image. We're just going to go to a new project and I'm going to get a better one and say, okay, let me pull that back up. Let me clear that. So tracing images is gonna, this was a 2000 by 2000 JPEG, okay? Let's see. Trying to think of what I might be able to. Let's try something like this. Your black and whites are gonna do better. There we go. So but you can do the blue ones. Let's grab that one. Let's just say for whatever reason I needed this and I wanted to break it apart because I just wanted the Ford. Gonna download it. I'm gonna go to my trace. I'm gonna choose that image. I'm gonna go to the Ford logo. I'm gonna open it. I'm gonna take this down to 2 colors because that's really all I need. And that's what I didn't do on the other one, but we're going to do it here. I'm going to take a look at those nodes. And I'm just going to say, okay. So there we have all of that. But you can see the grid back there. You know the rule with print and cut and design space. If you can see the grid, that's going to cut out. It's going to be the same thing here. But when I break it apart, now I have this oval Then I have the other inner oval. Don't need that. That's a secondary layer. You have all of these. I'm just going to slide them out of the way. Then I have just my word. Okay. One of these ovals is smaller than the other, by the way. That's what gives you that outline on it. But I'm going to show you how to put those back together. So I can select this, and I can right click, and I can merge. And it's going to give me all of that detail back. So now I have the word. I'm just going to duplicate it. Then I'm just going to slide that one over to the side. I'm going to select, I'm going to hold my shift key and select all of these. You have to hold your shift key to select them all. I'm going to arrange, no, I'm going to go up to Object, Align, Centers. And now I'm going to merge those. And now I have my oval back. And now they are back to one piece, but I have my forward in here. And I can, let's see, change it to white. So now I have manipulated that image. I'm going to shift select all to where I can do it in two different layers, a blue layer and a white layer, because I can go in here now and right click on the appearance, add a shadow layer, black out, make it white, and have the white rings behind my forward, and I still have all of my pieces separate. So now I have the back layer. If they want to do it that way, where they have the cutout in the center, you have the full background, and then you have the word separated, whereas before it came in as one image. Okay, so those are some of the things you can do with Trace. You can manipulate your image. You can manipulate it just a little bit better than you could with Design Space, because in Design Space I would have to take that in, upload it twice, and clean up all of the blue area and leave just the forward, if I could get it to do that, because it was clear, and when I take that blue area out, I'm going to lose the forward part. So this makes it a lot easier when you're tracing. You can manipulate a lot more. Everybody still with me? So then next you have your library. What is that called in Design Space? It's called Design Space Access. That's your library of images, and that's exactly what this is. In this library you can save your own. You can put your designs in here. You can upload them. You can put your SVGs. I've got some of mine that I've done in here. You don't have to. I don't bother with doing that, but if you're going to work in here a lot, you may want to save some of those shapes, some of your files. You can come up here and click on Add. I can come in here and anything that is my readable file. Let me go back to my shortcuts a lot. Where is it? There it is. Right there. So I can come into my shortcuts a lot, and I don't have this in there, so I can put my Be Mine SVG and I can put it in to my designs. So I can come in here, if I want to come in here and use this again later, it's there. Okay? So tons of things that you can do in your library. You've got shapes, you've got your fonts you can save. Here is where you can save them. How many of us use Font Book for our glyphs or character map on Windows? When you copy and paste them into your text box, guess where your glyphs are in here? You have everything that you need right here. How easy is that? So you have all of these in your library. All your fonts, all your projects, your shapes. You can add all of that in here, and then they also have their library. You can favorite things so that you have everything listed for you. Okay? So we have most all of this. Now the store, that's the e-store, guys. And that is for, oh, what machine is that for? I want to say eShapes. I don't remember what machine that is. I don't. I really don't. I've never had that machine. I don't remember. So that won't pertain to us. And then you have your preview tool where you can preview the cut lines, where it shows your cut lines, shows any draw lines. You can show the printable for it if you have a printable in there. All of your preview tools. And then here you have your cutter. Now if you have a silhouette or a brother scan and cut and you've set up your machine, it's going to be in here. We cannot send straight to the cutter with a Cricut. Okay? Cricut doesn't allow it. So you cannot send over to, if I wanted to just cut this out and I had a silhouette, I could go ahead and do that, send it over to my cutter. That's when that new project is going to come in to play, because if you're using a 12 by 12 mat, or if you're using a what is their small machine called? Is it a Cameo? No, it's not a Cameo. It's a Curio. I think it's a Curio. If you have a Curio that takes a 6 by 6 mat, you can come in here and change this to a 6 by 6 mat, design on it, and send it straight over to your Silhouette Curio. So, I mean, you have lots of options and things like that. Can I point out what features are available in the free version? If you have Shortcuts a Lot 5 and you don't see something I point out, that's not available to you. But mostly it's going to be this extrude tool, which we covered last week. But there was another one. Weeding. The weeding lines is not in there. And there's one more. There's something else that's not in there. I covered it last week. Does anybody remember? Was it tiling? Those are the main tools that aren't in there for the Pro. If you go to Craft Edge, if you go over to Craft Edge, I think there's like 5 things. There is a comparison. I don't remember what page it's on. I do apologize. That tells you what is not in the Pro version that is in the, I'm sorry, what's not in SCAL 5 that is in the Pro version. And it's not a whole lot. If you use a lot of plotters and other bigger commercial machines, you might want to do this Pro version. I wanted the extrude tool, and that's why I have it. Okay, but you know, basically, if you're just your basic crafter, your Cricut crafter, and you just want to enhance your design space, you do not need this Pro version, guys. All you need is the basic version. And if you are one of my supporters and you need a file that you've created in your Shortcuts a Lot 5 and you need me to extrude something for you, I will be happy to do it. Just let me know. I mean, give me a couple of days. On an emergency, I can try to do it. But that extrude is what this brown layer is on this Be Mine. Let me see if I can ungroup it. Oh, I brought it in the other way. There we go. Right here. Ungroup. The extrude tool does this layer right here and extrudes the words. So that's basically about the only tool in the effects and everything else that I could think of that you would really need if you're not doing something commercial. Yeah, SCAL 5 is not free. It is not. It's around $50. It may be on sale. Also check Leo's site. Leo from Dreaming Tree, SVG Tools. The one from SVG Tools comes with a $6.99 Dreaming Tree gift card, and but you just don't, he doesn't have listed, I don't think, the differences. Craft Edge does, and that's where the Scrappy Doo, if you want to do the Scrappy Doo Escal classes, they were on sale, but I don't think they are now. They're $75, and those are available at the Craft Edge site with the purchase. No, there is not. There's a trial. You can do a free trial, Donna. I think they do have a free trial version. I don't know. But everything won't be unlocked on it. So, Inkscape is free. I don't use Inkscape, but a lot of these tools you'll find in Inkscape. To me, Inkscape is more difficult to use. This is your step up from Design Space before you graduate to Inkscape. Okay? So now we've covered all of that design panel there. Last week we covered everything down to the draw a shape. I have not done the classes on these yet. We're going to come back and visit those. So what else is like Design Space? Design Space, we have a layers panel. That's what this is over here, guys. This is your layers panel right here, and you can pop it out. So if you're working a lot with your layers panel, you can pop it out and size it so that you can work with it over here on your design canvas. Okay? Yay, we have a couple of new subscribers. Welcome, welcome. So you can pop that layers panel out. You can bring it back just by simply clicking right here and bring it back in. But also in here you have a document panel. This is where you can also, remember when we did a new project? If you want to change your mat size, if I want to do a 12 by 24, I can do that here. Okay? I can change the orientation of it and make it horizontal. And it's going to ask me, did I want to rotate the objects? No, I didn't, because I'm going to work on it this way. If you wanted to rotate the objects, you could. I'm just going to say no again and show you that. So lots of options here when you're working. Oh, let me get back over there. I'm going to go back horizontal. So if I wanted the objects to rotate so it would look, if I were sending this to my cutting machine, that's when this would matter most. Because we're going to be uploading to Design Space, and orientation isn't going to matter. But orientation, if you're cutting on a silhouette or a brother scan and cut, will matter. So you need to know that you can rotate the object. So I'm going to say yes, and it rotates my objects with it. Okay. The arrow at the top is how it's going to feed into your machine. That's your orientation arrow of your mat. On our Cricut mats, if you look at your mat, you have that cutout for hanging the mat. It's also your orientation arrow. Okay? All right. So that covers that part. You can see that's just that section. You can also change your units here if you want to change those. You can show the grid or hide the grid. From here, we have that in Design Space. Remember that little button up in the top left corner between 0, 0 on the mat? Same thing. You can also change how many grid lines you want per inch. If you want to make it 2-inch grid marks instead of 1 inch, you can do that. If you want the subdivision to be 1/4 inch or a 1/3 inch or a 1/2 inch, you can do that. Remember, 1 is going to be 1 inch, 2 is a 1/2 inch, 3 is 3/4. I'm sorry, 0.33, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and 4 is a 1/4 inch. You can take it up to 1/8 inch if you want. That's totally up to you. Your grid, set it how you like it. Okay, I have mine set at 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to zoom in on that just so you guys can see it a little bit better. 75%. Down here on your bottom left, you see that zoom tool? Where is it in Design Space? Bottom left. Your zoom tool is in the exact same place down here on the bottom left as it is in Design Space. See, you guys knew more than you thought you knew. Those little numbers beside that, that's the position of my pointer. Okay? where your mouse is for designing. That's what that is. All right, and up here, after that, you can edit your grid lines here as well. So if you want to change your default, make them horizontal, vertical, you want to lock them, make them visible, all of that, you can, this is where you can set up a custom mat, basically, okay? And it will stay, and then you can go in and load it. You can also do it like when you go to new project. Nope, that's not where it's at. Right here. Right here where it says custom mat size. If I had that one saved, which I don't, I could go in there and select it. You can also set that up here. Right here, under mat size, under the cutter, you can come in here and do a custom mat size. So for whatever reason, if you want to do it and then save it as a preset, I'm not gonna put one in here, but I'm just gonna name this. And you can come in here and add and remove. So when I go to a new project and I want to do a custom mat, right here is my test mat. So if you've got something you work with all the time and you've got a grid laid out for it the way that you want it, you can save that custom mat size and its grid lines for working with those type projects and not have to set it up each and every time. That is something that we cannot do. We have settings where we can go to the new canvas or the other canvas, and if we toggle it between our 0 and 0 on design space to hide our grid lines and stuff, we're doing the same thing here, except with design space, the options they give us are the options we have. With Shortcuts a lot, the options are the options you want and what you set. You get to pick what you want. Okay? Then you have your Workspace Alpha. I forgot what this was. Oh, that's what it does. So if you want it to be solid, or if you want to work with things transparent, that is what that slide does. So if I needed to see my grid line for whatever reason, and a good reason would be, what if I needed to line this B mine up on that a little bit better if it was underneath it, which it needs to be for me to do this. Let me just drag it down below. So if the B mine was below it and I couldn't see it, just so you can see, if I wanted to line that up, I can't see that. But if I go to the Workspace Alpha, I can change it all the way down to lines, or I can transparent it so that I can see the one below it, and then I can still work with that one on top and nudge it around and get it over there. So that's an extra tool that we don't have in Design Space. And that's the Workspace Alpha. You can have it here where it shows the outlines only, so you can line it up that way. You can show print margins if you have a printer. I have my Epson printer in there. Let me get those out of the way just so you can see. That's going to be the parameters of my, you can see that grid line there, I hope. Let me blow it up just a little bit. See here where it says my Epson Workforce 7720 print margins. That's the print margins on my printer. Okay. In Design Space, we have that bounding box, and they put that in for us. But if you're designing a print and cut and you need to make sure it's going to be within those parameters of the machine you're using, then that's when you're going to use that. Let's see. Registration marks. If you want it to show the registration marks, you can put that in there to show that when you're going to do your print and cuts. I don't have... That's only going to show, the reason mine's not showing is because I don't have a machine hooked up to it. If I had a silhouette machine, you would see those 3 little corner registration marks that the silhouette has. Those would be in there. But because I don't have mine hooked up to any machine, nothing's going to show. Because Design Space does our bounding box for us when we import, we don't really need them. Hi, Sharon. Then you can do your page color. We can do that in Design Space. If you want to change the color of your mat that you're working on, Where is it in Design Space? It's in the bottom right of your Layers panel. And here it's just in the Document panel, inside the Layers panel. This is your Layers panel over here. This is the Document panel within that. So you can go in and you can change your grid color too to help you out if it helps you when you're working with white images. So if I were to change that to white, I wouldn't be able to see it well. But with this, then I can see it. So if everything, all my marks were white, now I can see that and work with it. Anybody learning anything about how these are so similar to Design Space? They're just in different places, but they're similar tools. So there we have that on the Documents panel, and then you have a Show Template, and that's just, I forgot what the template does. I forgot. I'll look it up. Also, guys, Craft Edge. If you go to Craft Edge, there's a PDF download instruction manual. It is live. If you click the links, it's going to take you over to subscribe to the Scrappy Doo classes, but you can still use that PDF. So I forgot what templates are for a oh, that's what doesn't. Yep, you can do a template just like we do in Design Space. I remember. Boom. Okay, if I wanted to have a template for a glass or whatever, I can come in here and I can make that. I'm going to my favorites. Home and Kitchen. So if I wanted a glass, I can go in there and I can add it. That is not going to export with any of my files, but it is there if I want to design and use that to make sure that my image is going to fit on that glass, and it doesn't, so I would need to go in and shift and bring it down and resize it. So same as the templates in Design Space, but yes, you can upload your own templates in there as well. Okay, as you can see, I've got the drinking glass here. But you can go in and you can do those. You can change the size of them and where they're located on the mat. If I was working at the 5 area, I can move it. There's a wine glass to show where I want it on the mat. You can mirror it. You can flip it. You can make it a custom size. If I know that that wine glass needs to be 4 inches wide, I can do that as well. And there it is on the 5-5 position on my mat. Okay, once it's on the mat, you can't move it, but you can tell it where you want it on there in that 5-5 position. Okay, so you do have templates in Shortcuts a lot. You can upload your own, all of that good stuff. So I'm just going to go to New Project so I don't have to clear all that stuff out, guys. I'm going to change my mat orientation back to 12 by 12. There we go, just to make it easier. So that's your Document panel. Next, we have the Position and Size panel, and I'm just going to pop that out because I use it a lot. This is going to be, I'm just going to draw a shape, whatever shape I'm on. This is where you're going to select what you want. This is center, so this is where I really need that to be. That's going to help me when I go to position my images as to where they go on the mat. So if I wanted this to be a line top, line bottom, you see how it's staying up above my mat? But it's staying to the right there. Let's see. And now it's staying within the constraints of that mat. Okay? So I'm staying in that top left position so it stays on my mat. If you bring it to center, it's going to be center of everything, including your grid lines. So I think that's what it did. That's what it told me. I don't remember. I should have refreshed myself. But that's your relative position, okay? That's relative position. See if it'll let me now. Get outside that button. Yeah, there we go. Let me drag it. But I'm just going to keep that center, that's relative position of my 12 by 24 mat. You can also position it just like we do in X and Y position in Design Space. Same thing. If I want that on the 0 position, same works exactly the same as the one in the edit bar on Design Space. Now you can do this is your horizontal alignment and your vertical alignment. Again, we have those in Design Space and the Align tools, okay, to selection. You also have that up here in Align. So if you want to center horizontally, center vertically, you've got more of your alignment tools right here. All of those are right there, okay? And then right here, same thing. Remember our locks in Design Space? On our handles, we have a lock right here, and then we have a lock up beside the size of it. This is the same thing, guys. Exactly the same thing. If I want to change this to a 5 by 7 card or panel, it's going to keep proportions unless I unlock it. And the only thing is there's not a lock. It just says keep proportions instead of having a lock symbol. That's it. That's the only difference on that. You can still rotate. And rotate is set up, if you look down here, let's see. If I rotate it with the handles, you can see the rotate amount here. I'm just going to undo that. If you come up to, I'm trying to remember where it's at. Y'all give me a second because I just learned all of this. I'm trying to remember view. Rotate is in here somewhere. I don't remember. I can search it there, but I don't want to. Let me undo that. Maybe that's why. You can come in here and you can set the rotate. It is set to rotate at, I want to say 15 degrees or 0.10, 15 or 30. It's what it's set at. Does anybody remember? I'm still learning it, so I have to, there it is. No, that's 3D rotate. Wrong rotate. Ooh. Object, maybe it might be that. Well, that is an effect. That 3D rotate. Transform. There it is under transform. Duh. I should have known that. Flip, mirror, all that is under transform. So flip it, mirror it, transform. All of those are under there. When you come over to rotate and click on it, that is where you can decide on your angle, okay? And skew, you can tell it how much. That's where you can rotate that. There's another place in there, though, where you can set how much it rotates per click on this. And I apologize that I forgot where it was at. It is in there, though. That's auto move. That's not it. The rotate up there is where you can tell it how much to rotate, just like we do Design Space. That's what that transform is there. There is a place. It's in the move. Position. There is a spot, and I will find it, and I will try to remember. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make myself a note. The rotate, where you can set how much it rotates by that button right there. so that you don't have to go into transform. So if you're usually rotating at 90 degrees and you want it to rotate 90 degrees each time that you click it, you can go in and you can set it to do that. Don't know if that's it. I can't remember. I do apologize. I don't remember where that's at. Preferences. That's where it is. It's in preferences. I think. No. There's the default shadow size. That's where you change the default shadow size. Simplify threshold, never fill paths. And you can always restore it if you change it. Anyway, I'm not going to stay on this, but it's in there. It is in there. I promise you it's in there. I will find out. I will go back and study a little bit harder and try to remember where it's at. But you can go in there and set how much your rotate button rotates when you rotate. Okay? It is customizable. Okay? Then we have in this panel our flip, which is just going to, that's not a good image to flip, is it? Let me go in here and grab a stork. There we go. And we'll just get rid of that. I'm going to get my little stork here and I'm going to stretch him out. So if I wanted him to go the other direction, that's what flip is going to do. Okay? Flip it horizontal, flip it vertical, any of those things. Can you use a single line font with Escal? I'm saying yes. Leo just did a video on that. Dreaming Tree. If you go to Dreaming Tree on YouTube, he did something about single line fonts. I think it was Leo. So that is your position and size panel. We're just going to pop it back in by clicking on the button. Then you have your color palette. We have the same thing over in Design Space, except in Design Space we can change the color. Here you can change the outline color or the stroke. So if I wanted that to show up, I mean it's not going to cut that color, but if I want that to be red on there, you can see my outline color turn to red. Well, he's pink. He didn't change. There we go. Now my outline color is red, so I can see it on the mat if you don't want to change your mat color. That's just going to change the stroke color, and then again you have your opacity line here if you want it to be where you can line it up. I got that really, really, really opaque. But you can change all of that in there. Okay, so I just flipped those around. That's what I did. These are your miter and stroke. Guys, I have not gotten into that yet. They have not described all of that yet. And then you have your line type. Keep in mind when you're doing a line for a draw, you need a solid line for your score lines for Design Space. If you pick a dashed line, it is going to be a dashed cut line. If you leave it dashed and we change it over in Design Space, it's going to be a dashed score line, which means if you've got 20 dashes in an inch, it's going to put 20 score lines for each one of those I'm sorry, not 20. It's going to change each one of those dashes to a separate score, and it will take you forever to score your Design Space file. If you like the dashed cut lines, then you can leave it on the dashed and leave it on cut, and it will help you with a lot of these like boxes and 3D images. You can do that, but if you intend to change it to a score line on Design Space, you need that line style to be solid. Okay, and that is basically your fill and stroke. Again, these are the way that your lines miter on the line styles. I don't know a ton about them and when you would use all of them, but I will figure that out and we will learn lessons in design and how to use those later. We don't have those in Design Space at all. So here you have your style. This is for your shadow layers if you want them rounded, blackout, all of that. Your weld, clipping, your cut line, the type cut, draw, print and cut. And then down here you have, there's your rotate set, I think. I think I just found it. Let's try it. So if I go back over here and I rotate it. No, that's not it. I thought maybe. But here's all your font. This is your font rotate. That's what it is, because this is your text panel. All your text stuff is in here. You can view all of your fonts or just the fonts in this project or anything that you've marked for favorite. You can click this and get to all of your fonts, as well as up here your fonts. And again, remember we said that in our library you could look at your fonts and your character map in there. Of course, we know bold, italics. This is a refresh. How many times do we go to Design Space and we decide we want a font that we don't have in there, and we go and we download a font and we install it, then we go back into Design Space and it's not there. It's not there because we had Design Space open. We have to close Design Space and open it back up. With this, all you have to do is reload fonts, and it will bring in any fonts that you loaded while you were working in Shortcuts a lot. And then it will be there. So instead of closing everything out and doing that, that's all you have to do. And then this will go and get any fonts that you don't have installed. You can use your fonts without installing them into Shortcuts a lot or any of that stuff. You can look for them and find them. Okay? Then all you have is your sizing here. The width and the tracking, all of that, those are your letter space and your line space. All of that, that's what those do. Okay? So super easy, super simple. And then here you have your layers panel, just like Design Space. And you can drag those in and rearrange where they're at. That is another thing that the Pro has. Now you can arrange your levels. Now if I had like 20 cut lines on that stork, like for a mandala, and I had tons of cut lines, in Pro you can tell it which lines are going to cut first. Here we can, anybody, even with the regular Shortcuts a lot, you can arrange how it is in your panel, just like you can in Design Space. But we can't arrange the cut lines themselves. So if I had a mandala here, and this stork was a mandala of, say, 300 pieces, I could tell it where to cut first. If I wanted it to start in the inside cuts first, I'm going to line those up in here. I can do that in Pro. You cannot do it in the regular SCAL 5. You can't tell it which lines to cut first. Okay? But if you have, we can arrange, like if you have just a few cut lines. I think that's what that was. Okay? Let's see. Has something to do with Pro. I know that Pro does something in there that you can't do in 5. I know you can arrange some of the cut lines if they're broken apart, but if they're together, then you can't. That's what it is. But with this one, you can arrange it. And then, of course, you have a folder here so that you can create a new folder right here to drop your stuff in instead of grouping. You can do all that grouping and stuff here, as well as right-clicking and grouping. You have to have the images selected, of course, and then you can group. And then, of course, you have your delete. And my minions are going off. So guys, that is basically all of the layers panel, and we talked about it last week. If you're working in there and you need a new page, you can do a new page down here, so you can have 2 pages in one design. Only the one page that you're on is what it's going to send over. You can copy and paste from one to another, Just going to Command C, Command V. You can copy and paste from one mat to the next. Do you want to tell it which ones to cut first? If you're doing something like a mandala, Donna, yes you do. Because in shortcuts, in Design Space or whatever cutting machine you have, if it cuts that outside edge first, and then you've got tiny little pieces all in the middle, you have cut that loose from that 12 by 12 piece of material, and that mat is holding that 12 by 12 down. And if you start in the middle cutting and work your way out and then cut the outer edge last, there is less chance for that piece to move around on the mat. I don't know if you've ever been cutting. I have, where I cut it and it cut the outside line first and then it started cutting, and because of the movement of all the cuts, it loosened it from the mat because the rest of the paper wasn't holding it there anymore. So it can matter. Yes, it can matter a lot. And that's usually going to matter with things like mandalas, or if you have an intricate earring that you're cutting, you're going to want some of those inside lines to cut first before it cuts the outside of the shape. So yes, that's going to matter. Does anybody have any other questions? Because the next video we do, we're going to start working with we're going to cover these tools, what they do, or just say what they are. This right here I know is Stencil Bridging. So if I wanted to make a stencil out of my font, that's what that tool does. So you guys who make a lot of stencils and you want to keep those centers of your lines in there, that's what it does. It's going to create those stencils, the bridges for you. I don't know, I don't use it. I haven't used it yet, so, but it's erasing this, so I may not be on it right. Plus, that's not a font that I can do that with. There we go. We'll get more into that once I learn how to use those. I know that's a knife, I think. Yep, that's a cut or crop selected shapes. That's the gradient tool. That's the copy and fill tool. You have a distort tool. Now distort, I kind of know what it is. Let me click on it. So if I wanted to distort my image, I could do that by grabbing those nodes and distorting it. So that's what that's going to do. Then you have the bridges stencil. And then this is your zoom, another zoom tool, okay? And then you have more up here that you can do. Remember I said if you're working with these tools over here, make sure that you look and see if you've got some extra tools inside those tools, okay? And then we have our grids right here. And then you've got your handle tool so that you can move things around with the hand, and it moves the whole mat and everything if you've got it zoomed up here so that you want to move it where you can see it instead of moving the object on the mat. It moves everything. It's a mover tool. Your maker will decide what's optimal, Donna, and most of all of the designs and access designs and things like that are set up to do that. But we have on occasion uploaded images and they were not set up like that. Specifically earrings. As a matter of fact, I did a Shortcuts a Lot video on rearranging the cut lines for some that were not properly optimized. And we brought the earring in and we redid the cut lines and then took it back into Design Space so it would cut properly. And we're going to cover those kind of things later when we start designing. And when we start, like the nodes, we're going to go in deeper, dive deeper into all of those, to the nodes, to how your image is layered out. We're going to get into more of that as we start designing. These last couple of videos was mainly just to show you guys what tools were like Design Space so that you could not be so intimidated by it. Here you have your same file tools and things like that. All of these may not be available in the regular, that revert tool. I'm not sure what that does. I haven't gotten into all these, but you can undo the distort. Here's your undo tools, things like that, as well as on there. You've got your copy paste, your objects. We're going to get into more of these, more that arrange. We have that in Design Space. That's still the same thing, moving things front to back, duplicating, hiding things, showing everything. Same as in Design Space with your layers panel. If you don't want something to show, you're working with something, you can hide the eyeball. Design Space puts a line through the eyeball, where this one just hides the piece and it becomes a dot. Okay. So, I mean, there's lots of things in here. You can rename your layers by going in here and changing the color of your bar. Let's say I want that to be red. Say okay. I've got to ungroup it first. But you can come in here and change the color of your layers panels. It really doesn't mean anything except here. The one with the G in it means that that layer is grouped. If it has a F-B, that's front minus back. A B-F means it's the back minus the front, which is a slice tool. We didn't cover that, but we're going to cover that in paths next week. We're going to talk about our layers. And we already talked about effects last week, but we're going to come in next week. We're going to be talking about our paths, our layers, and our nodes. Path, layers, and nodes. Because everything else is basically everything we covered in Design Space we already know, and we covered the effects last week. So, and then we're going to get into actually designing and making some designs. Yes, you can lock the image right there on the mat and still design stuff. So that's a nice tool to have. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Give a thumbs up and a like. I know it's a lot of information, but guess what? When you first started with Design Space, you didn't know it either. And now a lot of you know Design Space extremely well, and this is your next step up. How can you enhance your use of Design Space with the tools in here? Because we have effects and things that we can use and upload those SVGs and use them in Design Space. And it's going to take us a little while to learn it. We're going to learn it together. Like I said, I can't remember where to set that rotate tool, but I will find it. And the more that we use it and the more we do that, the more familiar it's going to become with us, and it's going to be just like second nature, like Design Space is. So for those of you who are new to Design Space, it's going to pay off to learn Design Space first. But you can learn shortcuts a lot first and then apply your knowledge into Design Space. So either way you want to work it, okay? I will catch you guys on Monday. You have a nice weekend, and everybody stay well.